round ball talk now, guys. Hello, I'm taking a lead here. We're gonna talk a little bit about sports. Larry is gonna is giving me the space to talk a little bit about basketball and like my history with basketball and a lot of stuff I've actually done, and talk a little bit about the playoffs. For those who don't know, like my big first social media thing was I started writing way back, 15 years ago, about the NBA and blogging about it. And I actually was pretty successful as a blogger. I was doing it as a side gig. And I ended up writing like an article a day for a year. That was like a thing I did. And, I got published in a bunch of places. I got to do in the Stat Geek Throwdown for ESPN. Had a couple of really good mentors. Shout out to Dave Barry, Wages Wins, and shout out to Andrew Abbott. He was always extremely nice to me. He was the guy who ran the old I forget the name of his blog on ESPN. Now he's just some great people that kind of like listened to me and like helped me with my writing and gave me the space to get people reading my stuff. And I've done a lot of I do a lot. This is my main job. I do a lot of statistical analysis, and I've done a lot of fantasy sports, and I've done a lot of like betting models and whatnot. And I'm nice. I give my shit away for free on the internet, and unlike other people, the stuff I give away for free wins, right? It doesn't always win, but like a lot of it does, right?
Thank you for the big TV about 5 years ago, Arturo, by the way. Thank you for that 80 incher that I got.
I try. Essentially, we were talking about this beforehand. One of the big things I do is I always do this playoff model, which is my attempt at doing a very, it is a non-biased, it does have some bias, but it is a non-biased analysis of basketball. So I do a minutes projection based on the history. I do a statistical projection based on the season, and then I do an adjustment based on whether or not the guys have actually played in the conference finals or the finals, and whether or not the coach sucks. Or let me rephrase that: whether or not their coach isn't good at like the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and based. Go ahead.
Yeah. Before Arturo goes on with his story, I'm just going to introduce like the guests that we have here.
Yes.
We have, of course, the third stooge of State of Wrestling. I got BJ Bethel here, who also has been writing about sports. His beat was, of course, Taiwanese baseball during COVID.
It was not my beat. I was just a huge, massive fan of Taiwanese. I used to cover professional baseball. But Arturo's the sports guy. You got two sports guys. I used to cover the Ohio State Buckeyes. I was a beat writer for them. I covered every sport you can know in a man. I used to cover the freaking the steel lumberjack games, which is one of my favorite things. And I actually got to run a big, huge chainsaw. I've covered dirt bikes, demolition derby. I've covered every football track. I've covered Olympians. I've covered Ohio State football. I've been on the game. I was on the field for the 1-2 Michigan versus Ohio State game, and then proceeded to get pounced on by 10 co-eds who decided to jump on the field drunk, but instead they landed on me. And then I got picked up and hugged by Ted Ginn's dad. So that was like he was bawling because they beat Michigan. So, but yeah, I actually, my longest stint was as a sports writer, and that's kind of my thing. And I actually drive most of the wrestling fans I know nuts because they're like, oh, you're talking sports ball now. But one thing I love about Larry and Arturo is I can come on here and there's none of these anti-sports ball snobs on here. So
sports ball.
Isn't that the worst thing? Like, this is a sports ball. I'm like, okay, look, get your lightsaber, stick it up your ass, go get outside, touch grass, crunch some dirt, get a glove, get a ball, get some life. I'm sorry, but sports are amazing. I love them, and I love talking to you guys about them. So let's do it.
Absolutely, and I absolutely.
And that, my friends, was the last little bit of energy I have left from the day, and the last little bit of the Pepsi I drank 6 hours ago.
Right. We're not sponsored by Pepsi, but the Pepsi factory is right next to my house. So, shout out to Pepsi. We are
Pepsi if you're listening.
Yeah, just don't set us on fire.
But you can send me free Pepsi. Just don't send anything to Doc.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I have I have all the blood sugar like going on there. You heard his beautiful voice here. We have, another wife guy because all four of us are wife guys. He runs YouTube, TKZ. I have here Taylor, man. He also covers NBA. He also has covered MLB on his channel, and I had football. Love having you here, Taylor. I know you're a big sports fan, big wrestling fan, but we're not here to talk grappling. We're here to talk about sports ball. So welcome to the show, man. And this is something that I've been trying to do because I wasn't my first introduction to BJ besides one wrestling and all that stuff was reading his sports articles. Also, I remembered where I remember
Jesus
the name
Christ,
Arturo.
you read my stuff on One Wrestling.
Yeah, man.
Oh my God,
I'm not much
that
of a
stuff is
freak.
forever. Good Lord, that stuff has been off the end. Dave Shear pulled that off the internet in 2001. You wanted that
and Joey
taken off.
Styles, man. Those are the two articles I was reading. I didn't really read much of Bob Ryder, but I read definitely you and Joey Styles. And Arturo,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've always wondered where that name like kind of hit me. Like I knew that name, your name from somewhere. And then when you bring up those articles for ESPN, I was like, oh shit. I was following you when I was doing all the fantasy sports shit back like 10 something years ago. So you talk about like it coming full circle, and Taylor here, he does a great YouTube channel. He does these live reads for like basketball playoffs. Follow him. The links will be in the episode description. And this has been something that I've been trying to get together for like the last couple of weeks. Every time you've heard Taylor on State of Wrestling, him and Arturo have been on like opposite sides. As in like Arturo's come in after I do a thing with Taylor. So like having everybody here that I want to hear, to want to talk here, to talk about things, it makes me happy.
So Taylor, it's great having you on. Thanks for coming on. But I just want to say, Arturo, are you the one to blame for all the 3-point shooting? I take it.
Yeah.
How dare you, sir?
Okay, so like, by the way, like I was gonna mention, like there may be embarrassing footage out there of me like hosting the NBA fantasy show. They used to do on Twitter. They would put that up on Twitter, and like I was basically doing all the content for that, but I wasn't necessarily. I was basically the backup host, right? So I didn't want to necessarily be on camera. There were days I would have to be on camera. So it's like me, and this is when I was working with Anthem. So they're like me and God, what's the name of the old TNA announcer? There's like him and I basically hosted a couple of those. Josh
Matthews.
Yeah, me and Josh Matthews hosted at least one of those together for the NBA, which is kind of like wild. Kind of think it's just me in my house, and then Josh in it like.
I might have seen those because I feel like I remember Josh Matthews talking about NBA.
He was the Josh was you talking about the same Josh was on Tough Enough and did TNA?
Yes.
Yeah, I was really close friends with his stepbrother who passed away.
It's me. So Josh was one of our hosts, and
that's awesome. Josh is a very smart dude,
and so I was like, so when I basically fill in when our content guys couldn't, and so like there's video out there somewhere of me and Josh like hosting the NBA fantasy stuff. And I would say like I think me and Josh like had good chemistry on those. So like it's kind of fun. Great guy to like host with, and like I was gonna say like so like it's the 3-point thing that BJ was referring is I wrote a paper at one point for Sloan Conference. There's like the super nerdy Stat Geek thing, which I was actually like it's funny because like there's a thing that the Ringer put out on Sloan and like Maury and whatnot, and there's a segment talking about a guy with a shirt, right, like the geeky shirt. And that's my shirt. Basically, I like gave it to like the guys, and I took the photo. And my photo is the one they put on because I was talking to Daryl, talking with those guys because I wrote this paper saying that every team should take more threes, right? And there's more reasons than that. But I was mentioning to Taylor when we got in, they're like, like the teams I talked to the Celtics, I talked to the Rockets, and when I say I talked to the front offices, like we discussed the paper. I got to meet like the Warriors guys, and like so I mean like yes, I may have some blame because I know people read that paper on like and like the Rockets were like this is like before they did the whole thing where they had the G League team that just took threes, right? So
and just so happens your favorite team, the Celtics, is the one that's leading the front on this.
Well, I mean, like they weren't the only team, but I mean, like logistically, the whole point of my paper was saying, like, look, there's essentially evidence that like we're not taking enough threes, and we don't know what the ceiling is on it, so people just should take more. And even if they don't make them, they should take more because it's like better than taking a two, like the mid-range twos. So it's like, I don't know.
The Rockets went all in on that during that last.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the other part of that paper that was fascinating is like at the end of that, I start talking about how you need to adjust your rebounding strategies around that. Which, if you see it, some of the teams are doing that now. Which is like, yeah, like once you start taking the threes, you gotta adjust where you put the you need to get the athletic wings like the Celtics did in the season. They haven't in the playoff, but that can grab those rebounds and like get easy shots after that, right? So there was a whole kind of like follow up saying like, hey, when you do this, you can expect the availability of rebounds to change, and where you have to have personnel, you kind of move that around. It's like, and again, like so people understand this is like 15 years ago. This is like I believe it was 2011 when that stuff went out in slow.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean like it's partly to blame for that one. Not necessarily my worst sin, right? But like yes, it's hey man. It's like the I do this model for NCAA basketball. I'm one of the guys who's been doing it for the NCAA tournament, and we like me and the other stat guys joke that we won, but at what cost? Because we can't like now essentially the seeding coming out from the NCAAs is correct, right? Because like we got to use all the stats. So like back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, like the seeding was ass, and we could like make a bunch of money in the first 2 or 3 rounds because we knew that like the seeding was ass, right? And you can take advantage of that. But like now you really can't because it's not like the old days, man. The old days. We won, but at what cost, right?
Oh man. I'm gonna take this opportunity here to say go to Arturo's go to his Twitter account. He has a PayPal like linked to his Twitter. So if you use his model for free, just give a.
I like to say only if you win, right? If you win, then
if you win,
I give you like some good advice. Then yeah, I mean, like feel free to buy me a coffee, then.
Yeah. Eventually
you can buy me something nicer if you want too. I'm saying that, but like I mean, it's just I don't do it. I don't really do it for that. One of the running jokes for this. The reason I kind of do this because I have my own private stuff and like there's models I like do on different sites and whatnot. And the reason I do the public-facing model, I mean, one, it's a fun challenge, and two, it's a way to keep myself sharp because I basically like throw it out there. And we were joking about this before because people come in like, "Oh, your model's so different from Vegas." It's like, "Why do you do that?" I'm like, "Well, because I consistently beat Vegas on like this model consistently beat Vegas." But like effectively,
if you're a casino owner, he's just joking. Don't send anybody to his house with any firearms. This is just entertainment.
Yeah, but effectively, I mean,
this is all for entertainment purposes.
You're doing it, so I'm doing it to get the feedback. I'm doing it to get the people kind of like bitching, right? Because it's it's the way to kind of like make it sharper and make it better, right? And again, we got like into the weeds with this. But where it gets objective is like, hey, let's talk a little bit about like the playoffs, right? Which are ongoing right now.
Yeah.
And I was consoling Larry before we got on because his Lakers got blown out by OKC. But I was like, the funny part about that is my model was saying that OKC is 100% to beat the Lakers before the start of the series.
Yeah. I knew that it was going to be happening, honestly, because they've all season. They've been trounced by the fucking by OKC. Every time my wife watches,
135 points.
Every time my wife watches with me, and like it's OKC, she just like goes to the living room and is like, I don't want to watch this because I did get my wife into the Lakers and the Dodgers. So like every time like
your wife's like, I can't watch this. It's too bloody and violent.
Oh no! Like so, the worst experience. Like so, let me describe this. Right. So I'm a big Celtics fan. Right. So I went to Larry Bird's last playoff game. I've been to all sorts of Celtics games. Right. And I'm a big fan. And I knew the Celtics were going to lose the series to the point where because I do the model. Right. I do the model. And the model hated the Celtics going into the playoffs. Just hated them. Loves the Knicks, hated the Celtics. And I'm seeing it, and I was having this conversation, and Taylor, you kind of jump in. I was telling people they're going to lose because the coach is going to be dumb about it, right? And people were like, "Oh, how dare you? You had this great season." I'm like, "Yes, but I'm aware that he doesn't like to make adjustments, right? So,
yeah, and it's one of those things you were talking about too, where it's easy to forget after a year, So like the Celtics won the title 2 years ago, or
because I mean, like essentially they won with overwhelming force, but it's like I always remember there's the series they played against Doc Rivers and the Sixers, right? And I always remember that series because essentially it took them 4 games to double up Harden, right? And I was like, I'm watching these games and just losing my freaking mind because I'm watching the games and basically the Celtics like to do this thing called drop coverage, where like basically they just essentially just like single up, drop down, right? And so Harden essentially is like, he's getting one guy in front of him. And Dale, I don't know if you know this, but the book on James Harden, right? And when I say the book on him, like the first guys who did this were like the Clippers with like Chris Paul and I think Lou was the assistant who did this. The book on Harden is you when you want to stop him, you put 2 guys on him, right? You basically you put 2 guys on him, press him because you want him to surrender the ball. So essentially you want Harden to be away from the ball because when he's away from the ball, he tends to get lazy, right? He's not as involved in the play. So the book on him is you basically press him up when he's coming up and you get him to pass the ball. And so I'm screaming my head off, going like, dude, they just have to press. And when they got down 3-1, that's when they decided to press on Harden and immediately destroyed the other team, right? But if you're getting out coached by Doc Rivers, right?
Yeah, that's tough.
You have a problem, right? I mean, this is a very like strange season because like I feel like it's OKC's to repeat, right?
And everything broke their way. They're the best team, and everything kind of broke their way seeding wise.
Yeah, I mean, like the 2 teams that can give them trouble are probably the Spurs and the T-Wolves. And the T-Wolves are banged up, but a bad matchup for the Spurs. Like if it broken slightly differently and they'd gotten the T-Wolves in round 2, then they would. Right. I mean, even so, if they got the T-Wolves now, they would be the T-Wolves with like half their squad on MASH units, but it would at least be more interesting, right?
Yeah, or if Denver had lost the last game of the season, they would have been the 4th seed. And
so
round 2.
What's your take on Denver?
I was very high on them coming into the year. I was not expecting the Wolves to just take their lunch money, but that's what happened, and that's what's so fun about the NBA. I'm big on like transaction and roster movement, and it was one of those like losses where it just feels like the team's done after that.
I mean, like the thing with that team is they essentially so the front office is gone, right? So their GM, the guy who built the team, is the GM for the T-Wolves.
Yeah.
And their coach is now coaching North Carolina, right? They fired him, and I'm in full disclosure. I'm an Arsenal fan. The Arsenal owners are the same owners as Denver. It kind of feels like they won the title in Denver, and they're focusing all their money on winning Arsenal some gold, right?
Yeah, they have been a little cheap the last couple of years.
Yeah, they basically, my take on Denver is they cleared out anybody who like knew. I knew some of the people in that front office. Like again, some of my, I'm not gonna dox them, but like the people with notable books, right, about like statistics of basketball and whatnot, and guys that have like exchanged emails and talked to. There may be some hidden slacks where like I talk to all the stat geeks for NBA, and so I know some of these guys, and I know that front office got dumber or like less competent when it lost a lot of the head ten. And my suspicion, like really since the last 2-3 years, they've not made any really good moves. I mean, like I was kind of saying, hey, you basically traded MPJ and had to pay somebody to get rid of that. And now they're talking about getting rid of Aaron Gordon. Are you going to send another pick out? I think like essentially like I was looking at that roster, and that roster after Aaron Gordon is crap, right?
Yeah,
that's not a playoff roster.
No.
And so people were bitching about joking. I'm like, dude, that roster is ass. What are you talking about? Like, just, yeah.
I think they almost have to just trade Jamal Murray and try to.
But do you trust them? Do you trust them to bring stuff back for Jamal?
No, definitely not. But I think that's the only path.
I mean, I think the problem is it's really hard to do kind of what OKC and the Celtics, and to like a lower degree, I think the Lakers have done this too, which is basically the edges, like, and the teams do it in slightly different ways. I think Brad's really good with Celtics at like finding talent later in the draft. The Lakers and this is actually something that changed this season. But like the Bus brothers were really good at running their G League team, and they were like they had a factory of guys. They find these guys and make them competent players, like Caruso, or Reeves. Both those guys.
And they're like he came through the Lakers too on Phoenix.
Right. They basically they teach them how to play defense. They teach them how to be like competent players. And like I think the Spurs are another team that actually kind of does that on the edges. Like the guys on the edges, the guys are like 5th, 6th, 7th guy. And I'm the guy who said like top 6 win you the title. But really, you have to find in that top 6, you have to find a couple guys like at like some sort of cost reduction. You can't pay a full price,
especially under the new aprons model. You have to have that.
Right, everything's kind of geared, so you have to like get rid of it, folks. And like it is, I don't think Denver has that right now. And I don't trust them to be able to stay at this level because I don't think they can basically like. No, it's like if you put a contest out and they have to like find a basketball player, I don't think they're going to like do a good job of it, right?
No, because they're out of assets and they haven't been able to draft anyone. Every draft pick has basically been a bust for them the last few years.
Not only that, but like they drafted what's his name? Bones, who's out with the T-Wolves, right?
Yeah.
So, and he was like the old GM basically. Yeah, they basically cut bait with Bones Island. And I mean, I'm not saying Bones Island is a great player, but like T-Wolves picked him up and he is a part of the rotation, right? They use him to fill in space. So like it even that, like their projects are getting like picked up by other teams. And it's a really kind of weird situation for them. The East is just like, as I said, I mean, I think the Knicks are going to come out of the East.
That's a bit over wasteland, yeah.
I mean, I think the Knicks are going to come out of the East. I think they're like, even though theoretically Detroit should beat the Knicks, but Detroit's never been there before. And there's the thing, like, it's incorporating my model, which is like, essentially, like, if you've never been there before, you're not going to get a single fucking whistle.
Right. That's the main reason as a Wolves fan I felt good about going against the Spurs, even after the injuries. Is the Spurs have just never been tested, and we have that big.
That feels like a series that like somehow some way Scott Foster will make sure goes 7 games.
Yeah.
The extender.
What does your model say? I'm blanking on his name now about the Knicks coach.
Mike Brown. Funny enough, one of the first articles I ever got picked up was LeBron James and the Cavs. Something about pomp and circumstance got picked up by like Wall Street Journal. It's like I was basically talking about how Mike Brown, the coach of the Cavs, like was basically playing the bad rotations, like 15 years. Like Brown's actually a guy who I used to rate as really bad as a playoff coach. He's gotten way, way better over time. Okay. Like he's a guy who's gotten better in terms of learns. By the time he was the bench coach he was the assistant coach for Kerr.
Oh, right. He was on first staff. Yeah.
And he was actually pretty good. Then he like got on the Kings, I believe. And then like he's with the Knicks. And I think he's actually like done a good job. Where like I used to rate him as bad. Now it's like I rate him kind of like as neutral. He's like he's okay. Like he will make adjustments. He will play the right rotations. It was funny to watch because the thing that happened in the Sixers series, right? That pissed me off and like was the thing that like I think broke all the Celtics Twitters and commenters was like, so the thing that the Sixers did, right? This is a very simple action. I'm going to explain this and tell me if you understand it, right? So the Celtics always like to run like there's like 2 or 3 actions that they always run, right? Say actions, that means like there's a guy coming up, they're setting up a screen, right, to kick off either like essentially like a cut to the basket with a runner, or a pass off to take a 3, right? You can visualize it in your head, right? Or they're running Spain or something, right? So essentially, like what the Sixers were doing is the Sixers were basically screwing with the pick, right? So the center, Quita, or one of the big guys would go up and like they would either like basically like bump him on the side or like push back to like move the setting of the pick so the guy couldn't get clear, and then Paul George would sit on the pass for the outlet, right? This is what they were doing, simple action. That's what they're doing, and the simple adjustment that you do for that, right, is you run the pick with like Tatum, right? So Tatum comes up, and you can't really fuck with the Tatum pick because if you fuck with the Tatum pick, that means Tatum's open, right? Because you're essentially like collapsing on the other guy. Tatum's open, and you can take action, or you put another ball, like you put like PB in motion, right? This is what you do, right? It's a very simple adjustment, and the Celtics never did it, right? And I'm watching these and going like, oh god, here we go again, because it's like. Nick Nurse, who's a really good coach, immediately like, I'm just going to do a small tweak adjustment, and he will never be compliant. I'm like, God, what's going on? And then he just started going like what they start going to this with ISO plays. It's just like essentially like then JB or Tatum bring up the ball and they're just doing ISO Kobe plays, right? I'm just going to the hole. And
God, I hate the ISO.
And then you get into the series, and with the
unless you got Michael Jordan or Dr. J, I just am not.
LeBron, like there's guys who could do it, but like, what do the Knicks do? The Knicks essentially just said, "Hey, there's Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid is like hurt and immobile. Let's go at him." So every play they're going at Joel Embiid. Right. And the other thing they're doing is they're going directly at him and trying and get him to jump. This is another thing the Celtics didn't do. Never got him to jump, right? They would never throw the high pass.
They weren't touching him at all. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is an old book. It's like, oh, Joel Embiid used to be able to jump that, but like he's hurt. Like you essentially like when you have a guy like that on the court, you want to challenge him, make him move, and make him spend energy on defense, right? Yeah. And it's weird because this is the book on the Celtics playing Kyrie Irving, right? Every time they play Kyrie or Luka, this is what they do. They basically find Luka or find Kyrie and just chase him down, so they spend this huge amount of energy so they can't go on the other end, right? But for whatever reason, imagine playing Street Fighter and not doing a fireball. Now that makes sense to you guys, right? I'm rude. I'm not going to use fireball. My views. Right? Yeah, I'm like, God damn, man.
As you could tell, Arturo's the only person on this episode whose team didn't make it out of round one.
Yeah. Hey. When you got any team
I just think that when it comes to defensive adjustments, I think because of the league and how basically it's a player-owned league pretty much, where the NBA coaches, the players have much more influence on what's happening on the team strategy-wise than the coaches, and I think so. You end up getting coaches that are going to go with what the players want, basically the stars. Well, I at least in certain circumstances, and I think that when that happens, then you see guys that aren't making those adjustments like they should.
In this particular case, we have Jaylen Brown actually on tape, on record, calling out the coach for playing the wrong. He was basically saying, "Hey, why weren't we playing the guys? Or basically, why aren't we playing the guys, the Hugo Gonzalez and the Lugarces, who were the guys who were basically like getting the rebounds and running the action so they could get the rebounds and like the easy plays." So he basically the same adjustment I just called out. Jaylen Brown went on tape and actually
that's funny.
He put it down, but like so
yeah. I think a lot of it's just just when you're I think coaches, they want to look brilliant, and they, instead of doing the simple stuff to go along, it's like how with Tom Izzo every year they go the Spartans, Michigan State every year in the college basketball season starts off like crap. They lose games they shouldn't. They somehow either win the Big Ten tournament or they fare fairly well. Then they end up in the Elite Eight every year, and it's like, okay, well, how's this happen? They look terrible. They did this. It's because he knows how to coach, late in the season. And I think that in the NBA, it's just because of the rigor, the 7 games, just because, like Taylor said, this is what kind of makes it a great league. These kind of things where you saw with the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, and just it just that rigor shows, it plays a part in everything. And
absolutely,
it's like this is the one professional sport where it's like, okay, this is a grind. NHL is kind of the same way, but you'll see teams that they'll just find, they'll find something in there and they'll make it more often than you will in the NBA. I mean, it's very rare for, and it's and what makes it so fascinating to me is just, that you'll see teams that do rise up and it's like, okay, they had this core together. Like the Pacers last year in the playoffs,
Yeah.
Like they did, where they just kind of came alive. And I think that's the thing I see with the Thunder now is like, I don't see a team that's going to pop up like that and maybe surprise them, or a player that's going to become Halliburton, who was kind of a star, but then he just ends up owning, he turns into Robert Horry and Larry Bird, once the playoffs start, until he, has a terrible injury in the last game. But
I think the thing about the Halliburton season is, by my numbers, he had one of the great all-time handle seasons. When I say handle, in terms of like not turning the ball over, high efficiency,
yes.
like one of the greatest seasons in the history of ever. It's like him and Chris Paul are the guys who have like, and Carlisle is also a demon coach. Like Carlisle is a guy who will fuck you up if you do not bring your A game. So that team was like really, really, really kind of a very hard out, and it is a pity because I do think they probably should have probably won. Cost me some money. I mean, I still won money because I had money.
I think if Halliburton doesn't get injured, I think they win that game.
Yeah,
just because the Thunder was struggling until like the last 4 or 5 minutes without Halliburton on the court. And I think it also, in basketball, I think people forget this because, the points and stuff is like if you make your free throws, you play good defense, you don't turn the ball over, and you get rebounds, you're going to win
that team,
of games.
The thing with that Pacers team is like in the clutch when they went to their half-court set, they were insanely efficient. Yeah. They just did not, like it was kind of just an insane thing to watch. The game would slow down, and that team would not.
You could see the work they put in before the season and during the season when they're running that offense in half court. And that was the thing that impressed me because I'm like, I'm not saying the teams that, play different styles or there's not other teams that really run a great half court, but that was like the best half court team I'd seen in probably 20 years where it's just where these guys could just efficiently, at least in the last 10, because I think some of the Cavs teams with Kyrie, Love, and LeBron could really run well half court, not as well as those Pacer teams did. Certainly Golden State could, but but that was a thing about that team. It's like it was kind of it sucks not seeing them be able to be what they were last year. I thought that was a fun run, but
I would probably think that they would probably like if that team was whole. I think they probably still run the East.
They have to be.
None of these guys, none of these teams have shown me they could beat that Pacers team.
No.
The Knicks seem to be getting all the hype because New York and everything's got to be New York. They pretend that. Like they pretend that Giants and Jets are relevant in the NFL when they don't. There's high school, managers that pick up the towels in Ohio that know more about football than anybody affiliated with the Giants and the Jets. And I'll tell you this right now.
That hasn't always been the case, but yes, that's true.
Yes, it's been a long time since when they get out and get real football people, but then they try to make big flashy hires. They try to get this next Sean McVay. They try to do this move. They try to do this move. They think this is the next Bill Parcells. It's like you find yourself some old fat ass white guy or African American gentleman from Ohio who runs a high school team. Put him in there. He ain't gonna care about social media or what's on the fan, and just let him run your team, and it'll end up with better results than what you got now. I can tell you right now that guy wouldn't have let Saquon Barkley go. So anyway, but it's like the Knicks get this sort of rub too, and it's just like I keep waiting for like the door to slam on them. It's like
I'm gonna make again. Remember I said there's like secret chat that I'm like in. I kind of knew like 3 or 4 years back. Like so, the Knicks under was like a running joke for like a good decade.
Oh yeah,
where like you always bet the Knicks under, and like I know when it changed. And it's kind of like they let kind of a certain talent agency kind of run that, but some of the guys that I know that are really good at stats have been working for that team for the last 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So guys that I respect, a lot of them
came from the Wolves.
Yeah, guys that I respect that I'm on like channels with and I've talked to. Like once I knew those guys were working for the Knicks, I was like, damn it! Like I can't bet the under on this team anymore.
Yeah. Well, I will say this: I other than the Pacers and obviously the Thunder, the team that impressed me the most last year was the Knicks. But they get in the off season and all of a sudden they're talking about all these changes. They want to dump Brown. I'm like, they made the conference finals. Like, what are you talking about? It's like that. It's just
the issue was the health of the team, and they've kind of been proven a little bit correct on that because the team is much healthier and they're the healthiest of all the. It's them and the Pistons. I'd say are probably the healthiest of all the teams.
Yeah.
So it worked on them. Where basically, I think. The Timberwolves tried this, but it didn't freaking work for them. Right?
Yeah. I do have a question for you because I'm a layman here. What are your guys' predictions for the finals on each side?
I think it feels like a collision course for the Thunder and Knicks. I'm hoping to get an upset in there somewhere, but that's my gut feeling, and I have a hard time seeing anyone topple either of those teams in other conferences. I think the Spurs and the Wolves are both better than the Knicks, but they play in the West with the Thunder. So
Correct. Yeah, I agree. I think the argument I've heard is that the Western Conference Finals is the finals, but yeah, I agree with the Thunder and the Knicks. Yeah, I mean, again, the thing with like the Pistons is like the Pistons, even though the model kind of likes them, they've kind of shown me that they're like not ready for prime time right now.
no, and
I don't trust them in the game.
when you watch them, it's exactly what you say. You don't trust anyone on the team. Obviously, you trust Cade, but like the second option has been Tobias Harris because there's no one else.
Yeah, who's the best? Who's the best player in that Magic Pistons series? It was Paolo. Paolo was the best player, like by far.
Yeah.
And Kane was close, but like I thought Paolo was like the guy who was like you knew that he was going to show up. He's a demon. And I just feel like they're going to get into the series with the Knicks, and the lights are going to be a bit too bright, and the whistles are just not going to go their way. Sorry, Detroit fans. Like,
Yeah, and the Knicks just got more guys that aren't afraid to shoot, and that's the thing. Watching the Pistons is if it's a 2-point game in the last 3 minutes, Cade and Toby are the only guys that want to shoot the ball. Everyone else is like the lights are too bright in round one. So in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's going to be way too bright.
Yeah, I mean, like it is a very interesting kind of economy. That's what I think, right? I don't think. Sorry, BJ, I don't think the Cavs have any chance.
I mean, I understand where they went with the Harden trade. I think Mitchell's a great player, but they need another killer. I don't think they have that. Then they need a defensive. It's like I'm looking at their line tonight. They're plus minus for their starters on the Cavs against the Detroit, which of course they lost by 10, but -7, -7, -18, -4. Allen had a +4, but
it's not the way I would have thought.
And Cunningham, I mean, in 9-11 free throws, 6 of 19 field goals. I mean, they got a lot of shots off tonight, a lot more than But I mean, if I had to go, I gotta say I really think the Knicks will probably win the East, just because I just don't see the. I don't know. I think the Pistons have a really good shot. I really do. I like the way they've played. I think they've had I think in their head this is kind of their season. I mean, this is kind of a team of destiny, and I mean, but
Well, I mean, like,
the
and
way
the
I
thing-
saw the way I think I did is I remember Mike Brown with the Cavs, and I remember some of the adjustments he could make when he had the players. And I mean, I remember watching them 3-1 down. I remember watching him coach the Cavs from down 3-1, and I don't think he gets enough credit for the way he was making adjustments and helping that team. You just change it. They were trying to run with them for 3 games and lost. And then or 3 of the 4 games, those first 4 games where they won 3 of the 4, the Warriors did. They were trying to run with them, and then Brown just like, okay, we're gonna be the Pistons of the '90s. We're gonna make this half court. We're gonna make them grind it, and it worked. And when Kyrie got hot, they got the right plays here and there, and and it shined on them. I think Brown is capable of doing that. Obviously he's obviously got his flaws as a coach, but I think that's what gives the Knicks an advantage to me over the Pistons. But the Thunder just seems so dominant. It's just SGA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Pacers were just, there's just no team that matches what the Pacers were last year. And this is an OKC team. This is an Oklahoma City team that's had another year of this. They're playoff tested. They're finals tested. I just can't really see that. I just can't see anybody really challenging the Thunder. I think they're going to make it 2 in a row.
That pretty much is what I thought about it. I know that's the coward's way of saying, yeah, I agree with everybody here. But I want to say thank you guys.
Obviously, I watch a lot more basketball, and but now once I start thinking about it, I'm like, wait, yeah, I've been paying more attention than I thought. But anyway, go ahead.
There you go.
Yeah, I want to say thank you guys for joining us for this inaugural episode. I think you titled it at the beginning of the show, Arturo. I had this problem of titling something today that I gave the wrong title to. I think I did Mascaras versus Cabello instead of Caballero. But Cabello.
Steve
but
Caballero.
Yeah, but I'm gonna give dude, one of my favorite skaters. But I'm gonna give what did you title this at the beginning again, Arturo? I think we're talking
I just said roundball rock review.
Yeah, the roundball rock review. This has been great as an introduction to what this is, and I hope we do more of these because I loved every second of this. This has been awesome to get you guys together for this. I'm gonna get us out here with this thing because there's this really great guy. Me and BJ, we're friends with him. Jay Fowler. He's really going through something right now. Go to thegreatfowler.com and like donate to him. He's a lot of what he's going through and what he's been through. You could read a story on his website. You could read the story that BJ wrote for him on BJ's Substack. Go there, thegreatfowler.com. Donate, please. He's one of my good friends and really like that guy. So just wanted to put that out.
Thanks for saying that. I really appreciate it. And $900 is what he's trying to raise. And if he gets it, he can keep his house over his head. He can keep his apartment. And that's just, and hopefully, he gets there. But we're pulling for you, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm gonna let you guys do your plugs, and we're gonna get out of here. So, Taylor, you can start us off, man.
Yeah. Always a pleasure. I love being on here with you guys. Like Doc said up top, I have a YouTube, same as all my social media, which is TayKZ, TayKzy, talking wrestling, mainly Dragon Gate. I think it's going to become even more Dragon Gate focused wrestling wise, and then NBA, kind of like what we just did here today. The playoffs are really fun, and then I love the off season as well, so it should be a lot of NBA content. And then you want to read my thoughts about Dragon Gate, I also write and cover Dragon Gate in the Social Suplex newsletter.
Awesome, man. BJ, well, where can people find you, BJ?
You can find me at SE Scoops. You can find me at bbethel.substack.com. You can find me on the Prescription podcast. If you don't know that, then you probably should take a look at what's playing on your phone or your electronic device, or what's being blasted in your head right now. That means somebody did put a chip in there. Thanks to the shot, you now have the prescription in your head, and you also have 5G internet. And also tomorrow, this is kind of a strange thing because I always says, obviously I'm a straight white guy from Miami County, but I got the privilege of being a writer for Queer Kentucky in Northern Kentucky, and I have an investigative story coming out on a police officer down there. It'll be on the site on Thursday, so I'm gonna have it up on Twitter. But if you like my reading, you like reading my stuff, you should like this. This is been an exhaustive story for a while, but I think if anybody likes reading my news stuff, this will be something they really like.
Absolutely. Again, thank you guys for coming on. This is Doc, not Rivers. Fuck that guy. But big sports fan here. I'm just here to sit down and listen to these guys with their knowledge, drop this knowledge on me, and because I've always wanted to do this show with these specific guys. I'm so happy to let this happen. It's sort of like when you get you guys ever played at the arcades, right? And you guys play Ninja Turtles, the arcades game, and you get all four player slots filled. This is how I feel right now. So I'm so pumped up right now. So, but this is I'm gonna give the host the duty of closing this out. Thank you, Arturo, for hosting this. You're the man, bro.
And like that, we go with one word for Larry: shell shock. Sorry. We're talking about the Ninja Turtles, but yeah, it's good. I mean, hopefully the playoffs keep being exciting and fun, and we can talk more sports in the future.
Hell yeah, man.
Good night and good luck.